Hi there, my name's Alfie. Slightly beardier Alfie than usual, or very much beardier than usual. But the reason for the beard and the reason for this video really is that we're currently in lockdown due to the coronavirus pandemic. So the whole of the UK is under lockdown, and so I thought, well, I need to take advantage of this and be a bit creative and see what I can do. So I thought I would give this a go. It's a series I'm going to be calling Adventures in Lockdown, which sounds a bit oxymoronic, but I suppose it works, and I couldn't come up with anything better. I'm not very creative. But basically my idea was to go and explore places that I find interesting, that have an interesting history, maybe a bit of a weird or a dark history, now that our restrictions here in the UK have actually been slightly eased so that we can now go outside more often. However, we're not supposed to be taking public transport unless it's for essential journeys, and I don't think this would be an essential journey, and we're not supposed to be driving. So I want to explore places that I can walk to in a reasonable amount of time. So I would say an hour and a half maybe. I'm not extremely fit. I'm not fit at all, actually. But yeah, I thought I'd give it a go, see what happens. I don't expect this to be a very long-lived series. Number one, because the lockdown is probably going to be lifted in a few weeks, or at least substantially lifted, even if not all the way. And two, because of that thing I said before, where I can't take public transport or drive, so I have to walk to places, which means I'm limited in my options. Although I live in East London, so there are some few places around that I can walk to, and I'm considered a key worker, so I'm still going to work, which means I can walk around places where I live and walk around places near where I work. And I work in central London, so that gives me a bit of a wider area that I can explore. However, today I thought I'd kick things off with something kind of, I suppose, relatively boring for most people. Probably you might find it interesting if you're into sports. I'm not, but I still find it interesting, and that's the Queen Elizabeth II Olympic Park, or the London Olympic Park, where the 2012 Olympics were held. So yeah, let's not waste any more time and let's go and have a look. So this here is the Olympic Stadium, or as it's now known, London Stadium. This is where the Queen and Daniel Craig as James Bond jumped out of a helicopter up there and landed in there during the opening ceremony. Obviously it wasn't the real Queen and Daniel Craig, but still, that's the only part of the Olympics I actually watched. But yeah, so after the Olympics finished, they were left with this massive stadium and didn't really know what to do with it. So football teams were allowed to bid on basically having this stadium as their home ground, and it was a tight race or competition between West Ham, Tottenham and Leyton Orient, but as you can see, West Ham got it in the end, and so it's now called London Stadium, which isn't actually too far from where their previous stadium was. But yeah, I don't actually know much about football at all, but there you go. So there's a massive bell here that says London 2012, Be not afeard, the isle is full of noises. And I don't know the significance. Is it a thing that if you have the Olympics you have to have a giant bell? I don't know. If you know, let me know. And as you can see, even though the park opened 8 years ago now, there's still a lot of development going on. So when London won the bid to hold the 2012 Summer Olympics, the government and the London Assembly, which was led by Boris Johnson, who was Mayor of London at the time, had to find a location to build an Olympic park to hold all the events. Over there you can see the Olympic rings. They decided on this area. This is the slightly less interesting side of the park. That's the ArcelorMittal orbit and the stadium over there. They decided on this area in East London, which was a combination of just empty grassland, contaminated wasteland, and old factories that had probably been built in the 40s and 50s that weren't in very good shape. And this was a very industrial area of London. It still kind of is. It's very windy, sorry, I hope you can hear me. So yeah, they decided to build here. Weird choice, but now it's all built, and it was a relatively successful Olympics as far as I'm aware. This over here was the media centre for the Olympics. This is where all the media companies from around the world were situated. Before that, it was a greyhound racetrack that was knocked down just before the millennium. Now it's being used as offices and for BT Sport, I think, and also some university that I can't remember. Okay, now we're going to start the climb to the rings. And there they are. The Olympic rings. And these here are the Paralympic commas by the looks of them. I don't actually know what they're called, but they're not rings. And then this funny looking building here with the weird roof is a velodrome, or a velodrome, which is for cycling, I believe. And those floodlights over there, I believe that's the hockey and tennis courts. He was a skater boy. She said, "See you later, boy." Over here is called the East Village, which was formerly the Olympic Village, but they've now obviously converted it into luxury flats. Well, not overly luxurious, but nice flats. Never seen this before, but it's quite cool. The obstacle course, or whatever it is, I don't know, for skateboards and bikes. Nice. Now this monstrosity over here is the ArcelorMittal Orbit. So basically, when work was starting on the park, the ministers overseeing the project thought that something was missing. They had all this land with plants and all the different exercise areas and the structures like the stadium, but Boris Johnson thought that it would be good to have a sort of tower, a large public art structure. He envisioned something like a mixture between the Statue of Liberty and the Eiffel Tower. And so we ended up with this, which is the largest piece, or the tallest piece, of public art, if you can call it that, in the UK. So the idea is that's an observation deck up the top, but a few years later they realised no one was actually coming to visit, and so to try and bring people in, they built a slide. Not everyone was thrilled with the idea of having this new multi-million-pound Olympic Park here in East London. The park is in 4 different London boroughs: Tower Hamlets, Newham, Waltham Forest and Hackney. and Tower Hamlets, Newham and Hackney are the 3 poorest boroughs in London. So some people who lived here weren't overly excited to see all that money being poured into this massive Olympic Park while they were living, you know, day to day, just getting by sort of thing. And so the Olympic Park and the money that came with the tourism and everything has sort of developed this area a bit. So now you see over here in particular there's tall buildings of apartments, but you still see, for example, here this is one of the tower blocks, behind it another tower block of the Carpenter's estate, which is a council housing estate or public housing, social housing. That's actually mostly abandoned now. It's been sort of an ongoing issue between the council and the tenants. The council, I believe, wants to knock it down, and there was talk of there being a university campus being built on top of it, but nothing has happened so far, and it's still standing, but it's mostly abandoned. I believe there might be a few people still living inside because they have nowhere else to go, or out of protest perhaps, but yeah, it's mostly empty, and I imagine, not looking at it from the outside, not in a very good state. But I think one of the things that I found shocking, at least, is going out of this sort of local area around here where all these flats are that are quite expensive, and over here you have Westfield, and this here is the aquatic centre, the swimming pool. TfL, Transport for London, has its offices over there, as does the Financial Conduct Authority, and they're building this new thing called the International Quarter, which is going to be restaurants and shops and all this. But as soon as you sort of go out of this area and you start going over this way, in particular towards Bow and Bromley by Bow and Mile End, you see where the Olympic influence and the money is sort of running out, and it's a complete change of scenery from this, really. Okay, so I'm back home now. I didn't realise how windy it was outside until I already got to the park, so I apologise if you can't really hear me on that. It's probably for the best. Hopefully when I try this in the future, if I choose to, then it will be a bit better in terms of audio quality. I meant to mention at the beginning that these aren't going to be the most well filmed and well edited pieces of film, if you can call it that you've ever seen. Mainly because my laptop, I've had it for about 5 years, and it's just quite slow, freezes, crashes, has hardly any storage space on it. So I'm going to be doing all the filming and editing on my phone. So makes it a bit more of a challenge for me, but it also means that things are going to be a lot simpler, but I'm sure that doesn't really matter, or I'm sure people don't really care. Anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed that little tour / video about the history and stuff to do with the Olympic Park. I've got some more ideas for places I want to visit. I'm on night shifts for a few days, so maybe the next few will be from near where I work at like 2 in the morning. Who knows? But yeah, thanks for watching.